Hey there, crafty friends, it's Tina the Scrappin' Rabbit. Thanks so much for stopping by the channel. In today's video, we're going to be creating a couple cards featuring the Scrappy Tails Designs new dies and some butterfly die, as well as a stamp set. This is the A7 Intricate Hello Friend Heart Spinner add-on for the A7 Snow Globe die. I am new to the design team. I'm so excited to be creating using these amazing dies. I'm also going to be using the butterfly die and some sentiments off of the Fairy Sentiment stamp set. So let's go ahead and get started. So first I'm going to use this intricate die and cut the heart out using some white glittered cardstock. I definitely recommend that you use a precision cutting plate because it is intricate. It cuts beautifully, but there's lots of little pieces. I use my tweezers to help me poke out all of the insides. The same thing with this beautiful butterfly die. I cut it out with some black cardstock, and then I also have this white layer. For this background layer, I am going to be adding some Copic coloring. I picked out some oranges and yellows for my first butterfly. I'm not being too careful. I'm just coloring around the edges. I'm going to blend out a little bit. The intricate outline is going to be laid over this background layer, so the coloring doesn't have to be perfect. It's basically laying down some color to peek through the butterfly outline. So I'm using the YR09, the YR04, the YR12, the YR21, and the YR31 and the Y11. So just some variations of oranges and yellows, and look at how pretty that looks. Now the body also peeks through, so I'm grabbing a gray Copic marker and I'm coloring the body and around the edges because I don't want the white edges to show, so that when you look at it from the side, you don't see the white. For my second butterfly, I'm going to be using some blue-greens. The darkest color is the BG09. I'm going to blend that out with the BG05, the BG32, and the YG11. These colors are so beautiful. And now I'm picking colors that I think will coordinate with my Distress Oxide inks because I am going to do some ink blending. And so I have my oranges and yellows, and then my blues and my greens. So these are the two color themes that I'm going for. And I just love the way that that looks. So now I'm going to use some liquid glue, and I'm going to glue on that top layer to the Copic colored layer. This die set is called the Open Butterflies die. There are several sets at the Scrappy Tails Crafts shop, and this set right here is the one that I just absolutely had to have. So I'm just piecing these layers together and I'm going to glue the top onto the bottom. And now I have the two butterflies for my cards. So the next thing I'm going to do is that ink blending. I picked out some Distress Oxides and picked raspberry, the Kish Flamingo, the carved pumpkin, and the squeezed lemonade. I've got some soft blending brushes, and I'm just blending the dark pink to the light pink. And then I will add in some of that carved pumpkin and the squeezed lemonade. Some nice bright spring colored colors for my card background. And I'm loving the way that this blend is looking. And I just go over with a few layers to just smooth out the blend. Once I have that done, I'm just grabbing a wet wipe and I'm dabbing it to give it kind of a marbled effect. I don't want it to look like an ink blended background. I'm actually adding some texture there so that it looks almost like it's pattern paper. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the blues and the greens, and in these colors are the Broken China, the Salvaged Patina, the Cracked Pistachio, and the Twisted Citron. Using some soft blending brushes, I'm going to do the dark to light, going the dark blue to the Salvaged Patina, and then add in the greens. So I have two different color schemes to coordinate with those beautiful butterflies that I created. Blending and adding more and more layers. ink blending is one of those things that I really enjoy doing. It's almost like therapy. And with the Distress Oxide, it's so easy to blend that it's almost impossible to mess it up. The cardstock that I'm using is Bristol Smooth, which is also an excellent cardstock for ink blending, whether you're using the oxides or the regular Distress inks. Now that I have both of my panels done, and I did use the wipes on both of them, I'm going to add some of this Glimmer Mist. I'm just going to splatter it on there. It's a very subtle droplet look, and each one of the drops has a shimmer to it, and I just love the way that that looks on an inked background. I'm going to set those aside to dry, but you can see how sparkly and how pretty these backgrounds turned out. So now I'm going to stamp the sentiments, and I like to stamp and emboss, and so I'm just prepping my black cardstock with an anti-static powder tool. Now I picked the thank you sentiment and the happy birthday, so I'm doing two different themed cards today. I'm going to use some Versamark on the sentiments and some white embossing powder. So I love the way that a heat embossed sentiment looks. And I'm just putting on lots of powder to get all of that Versamark covered. And then when I go to heat my heat tool up, I like to get it nice and hot before I put it on my cardstock. And then when the sentiment melts down, it just looks amazing. Once it cools down, I'm just going to wipe off the excess powder. And now I'm going to grab my sparkle marker to embellish my butterflies. I love to add sparkle, and so just around the black edges, I'm going to add some of this sparkle marker. I did trim down the sentiments, and I cut the little flagged edges using some scissors. And I'm going to go over both of these butterflies, adding a couple layers of this Spectrum Noir sparkle marker. This is one of my staples and go-to markers to add and embellish my projects. Once that dries, I'm going to get my Jelly Roll pen, my white Jelly Roll pen, and add some little white polka dots like you see on those monarch butterflies. So I'm just going to add some dots on the tips of the wings and then towards the center of the wings. And I just love the way that that looks. It's so pretty. And then the same thing for my blue-green butterfly. Adding those little white dots. And you'd have to be careful to not smudge them because they do take a minute or so to dry once you have that down. Now I have all the pieces for my card base, so I'm just going to go ahead and glue down my layers to the A2 size card base that I have here. And I love to use liquid glue. You just have to make sure that you push down and have it dry flat. I like to use my bone folder to smooth out any of the glue behind the panel. So once I do that for both of my layers, I'm going to glue the glittered cardstock heart. This is such a beautiful die, and I can't wait to get the other pieces so that I can create one of those A7 spinner cards. As I build up my collection, this heart fits perfect on an A2 sized card. And I'm just going to center this second one because I have an idea of how I'm going to design both of them at this point. I'm going to bend the butterfly so that just the center of the butterfly is glued, and I'm going to pop up the sentiment for the happy birthday sentiment for my first card. Once I have my sentiment down, I'm going to add glue just to the body of the butterfly, and I'm going to press down. Now I'm going to need to hold it down because the glue is on the glittered cardstock, and it does take a while for the glue to dry. So the same thing here, I'm going to actually use the glue to directly glue down the sentiment and then have the butterfly there on the side. And you can see that it does slide around, so you do have to make sure that you hold it down until it dries, since it's going on that glittered cardstock, and so it does take a little bit more time. To finish my project off, I am going to get some sparkly gemstones and add them to the center of the flowers. And that gives it even more sparkle and it makes it look so pretty. So these are some white clear-ish type of gems, and I'm just using the liquid glue to adhere them down to the centers of all of the flowers that are showing through. So now that I have that card done, I'm going to do the same exact thing to my second card, and I have all those gems just ready to go, and I use my jewel picker tool to help me center those on there. And that completes my 2 cards for you today. Thank you guys so much for stopping by my channel. I really do appreciate it, and I'm so excited to be crafting with Scrappy Tails Crafts and the design team. So I have more videos that I'll be sharing with you in the near future. I hope you like my cards. Again, thanks so much for stopping by. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and until next time, happy crafting. Bye for now.